Apparently, the Pittsburgh Steelers players already know that Matt Canada is on his way out after the season. And man, I don't know, but I have some thoughts on that. What's going on, everybody? I'm Noah Strackbine. Thank you for jumping on to Steelers to Go, your daily to go cup of Pittsburgh Steelers news and analysis. Find us on youtube.com/all Steelers talk or anywhere you get your podcasts. And today I'm talking about the report that Matt Canada already knows, and everybody in the building, players included, already know that their offensive coordinator is gone after the season. The decision has already been made. It just isn't finalized. The paperwork, whatever needs to happen, has not gone through. And until the end of the season, it won't go through. These are reports from Pittsburgh Post Gazette Ray Fittipaldo. And it was a 93.7 The Fan interview. He showed up and he just gave his opinion. And the report wasn't very firm on this is exactly what's going to happen, but he did say that the players know and that everybody inside the building knows that Matt Canada will be gone after the season. And that's okay, except for the fact about the players. The statement about the players gets you, and it makes you wonder, is that real? Because if it is real, you have to start asking questions. You have to really dive into, is that okay that the players know? When did they find out? How long have the Steelers known? And how are they still keeping it together? Because if the Steelers knew early in the season, and chances are they probably did, I don't think anybody went into the bye week expecting Matt Canada to return next season, because the storyline was maybe he'll be gone during the bye week. But if the Steelers already knew during the bye week that they were getting rid of Matt Canada, is that when they started telling people? Is that when guys like Najee Harris and Kenny Pickett found out that their offensive coordinator isn't going to be around next season? Because that is a strange way to go about the season. Even if it's this late in the season, even if nobody knew until this past weekend that Matt Canada wasn't going to return, it's still very strange that the players know, because they're fighting for a playoff spot. The season is not over, and in their eyes, the season is certainly not over. There are guys talking about wanting to finish with a winning record, regardless of whether or not they make it to the postseason. But you're going to play in an offensive system that you know isn't going to be around next year for a guy that you can't really respect because he's going to be gone in 2 weeks. You're going to fight for a playoff spot, but how far can you go with somebody who already lost their job? And what if they did? That's a huge question mark. What if the Steelers somehow pulled off this miraculous playoff run? The offense clicked on all cylinders, and Matt Canada found himself as like this glorified offensive coordinator. What do you do then? Do you still fire him? You already told the players. I think that putting yourself in that predicament is very, very un-Steelers like. And that's my biggest question in this entire thing is, look, I trust Ray. When Ray has a report out there, most times when the Pittsburgh Post Gazette has a report out there, you can trust it. But Ray is somebody that I have learned I respect a ton. I believe what he has to say. I'm just very curious about what direction he meant. Because if he just meant hypothetically, everybody knows that Matt Canada is leaving, it's just not a hard thing to guess. You got to deal with it. The players understand that the offense is bad. The coaches understand that the offense is bad. Everybody knows that you need a change. Then that's okay. That's totally different. At that point, you're just looking at a guy and saying, look, this hasn't happened. It hasn't worked well. It's time to leave. But if it's the other way around and guys are saying, hey, I'm just going to tell you straight up, Najee, Kenny, George, Pat, the offensive line, Matt Canada is not going to be here next season. We're going to look for a new offensive coordinator. We're probably going to want your input on how this works. What? How are you going to tell a rookie quarterback that? How are you going to tell a second-year running back who's supposed to lead this team? How are you going to tell Deontay Johnson and then have Deontay Johnson go and say good things about Matt Canada and the offensive scheme? I mean, Kenny said it on, when does Kenny talk? Wednesday afternoon. He said, we trust Matt Canada's plays. He's always very much communicating with us. But did he say that while knowing that Matt Canada has already pretty much lost his job? I've been around the Steelers for 4 years. And in those 4 years, I have learned a lot about how this team operates. I've learned pretty much everything about how this team operates. I've watched it happen. I've taken notes. I've studied guys like Mike Tomlin and Art Rooney and all of the coordinators. I've listened to journalists who have been here for a long, long time. And this is just so out in left field, man, that I just don't know what to think about it. But here's the thing is that the Steelers do left field things once in a while. That actually does happen. You think that this team is very, okay, we are coordinated to a T. Everything we do is scripted and well thought out and has a plan, and we're not going to let everything go and all these things. But sometimes they get out and sometimes they do things out in left field. They've done it this season. You know, putting Kenny Pickett in halftime of the Jets game is not something they plan to do. It was never on the table. It was not okay, if Mitch stinks halfway through this game, we're going to put Kenny Pickett in. That was not in the playbook. Mitch Trubisky and Deontay Johnson get into a fight at halftime. Everybody realizes that Mitch has lost the locker room. You got to make a move in that moment. Mike Tomlin is not afraid to make a move in that moment, and he did. But that is not a well thought out plan. It never was. Seems like the same thing. It seems like a situation where it just suddenly started to happen. People got involved. Things were said. All of a sudden, the Steelers have agreed Matt Canada is gone, and somehow it got out. And it getting out has now resonated to the public. And if guys like me are sitting around somewhat stunned that this is how this situation is being approached, I couldn't even imagine being a rookie quarterback. And there's no way that he doesn't hear it. You know, like guys hear these things. They're not off of social media completely. They don't not listen to the radio. They don't not go on Google. They don't not have ESPN apps or this or that. They see these things. They hear these things. Their family hears these things and then they bring them up. In some way or another, these guys know what's going on. And you just got to question, what is the thought of these players right now? Because it can't be great. And you can't ask them about that. You can't go up to Kenny Pickett and say, hey, man, have you heard that reportedly Matt Canada is already pretty much fired? What are your thoughts on that? Because for one, he's not going to give you an answer. For two, he's going to get pissed. And for three, it's going to ruin any relationship that you have with Kenny Pickett and that you potentially have with Matt Canada. You can't do that. That's so unprofessional. And yes, I get that as a journalist, your job is to ask the hard questions, but sometimes you have to wait to ask the hard questions. Right now is not that moment. With 2 weeks left in the season, with the Pittsburgh Steelers fighting for a playoff spot and this team very much alive, not the time to be asking about your offensive coordinator who's already pretty much fired and how you feel about that. Just not. Doesn't look good. But to be a fly on the wall when Kenny Pickett actually does give his thoughts to whomever he wants to give those thoughts to, whether it's his fiance or his parents or his teammates or whoever, you gotta wonder how he is taking this news, how Najee Harris took this news. Who was the first person to find out? I don't know. It's not a move I would make. It's not a situation I would let slip. I don't know who did. I don't believe that it was Mike Tomlin or anybody like that, but I believe that if somebody says it, and I trust Ray, then it was probably true. At least it was reportedly true. And it's just a weird situation. It's a very, very weird thing to think about. And with 2 weeks left in the season, this is by far the strangest situation that I have covered with the Pittsburgh Steelers this close to the playoffs. It just doesn't make any sense. It's very un-Steelers like. And yes, fans have to be so excited. At least the half that doesn't like Matt Canada and wants him to be gone anyways. They have to be thrilled that this news is already out and about and that they could already start preparing for the parade of post Matt Canada and a new offensive coordinator. But the half of the fan base that is still sitting around believing that the playoffs are real and look at this situation like, why the hell would they let this news out right now? Why the hell would the players know that? I got to say, I'm with you on that one. Because if I'm a player, I'm not taking this very well. I'm feeling really, really skeptical about anybody's job security. 2 weeks left in the season. And I don't know, like the whole this is a family organization thing definitely takes a little bit of a blow with it. I'm not saying it ruins the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm not saying that it's this big giant dent that you can't get out of the organization. I'm just saying that it is a very strange way to go about this. And it's not one that you could just feel comfortable with if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially if you're the players.